Hello, this is cjhoyle. Today is Wednesday, November the 10th, 2021, and I'm here in Ivey Park, right in the heart of London, Ontario, Canada. So right next to this park is the Forks of the Thames River, which is where the south branch of the Thames merges with the north branch, which is over on my right, and they continue over in that direction in the west direction. And in this video, I'm going to be riding my folding bike here and giving a narrated tour of the Thames Valley Parkway trail, which follows the north branch over this way, and I'll be following the trail starting from here just beyond the downtown of London, and I'll be going all the way to Western University, and then I'll continue and show the remainder of the north branch trail. Alright, so here I begin my ride heading in the north direction, and this bridge that we're going to go underneath of up ahead is Dundas Street here in downtown London. We should have lots of nice views of the Thames River here as we ride along. I guess this is actually the north branch of the river. And this trail is called the Thames Valley Parkway, or the TVP. And there's kind of three different branches of it, which correspond with the three different branches of the river that are here in London. Yesterday, I filmed the western branch of the river. And later today, I plan on filming the southern branch, the final of the three, so I can complete the London TVP hat trick. If you're not familiar with my YouTube channel, I'm based in Toronto, Ontario, and I've made quite a few of these narrated bike riding videos in my home city of Toronto and a couple other cities around the world. But I'm only visiting London here for 2 days to explore the bike trails and make videos while I'm doing it. It's got a little bit of a hill to climb here. Filming this at 1 p.m. on a Wednesday afternoon. Up here on the left, there's a bridge called Blackfriars Bridge, which is the oldest bridge in London, from what I understand. Let me just pan the camera over there so you can see it. We're actually not going to be crossing it. And here's a clip that I filmed earlier from what it looks like on top of the bridge. That bridge was the first wrought iron bridge that was built here in London. It was manufactured in Ohio, but it was brought here and installed. And before then, I guess all the bridges would have been wooden. And it's still in use today, although it's only a one-way road with sort of a bike lane on it. Looks like on the right we're passing a community garden. And we got a nice blue sunny day today for this video. Yesterday when I was riding around and filming, it was pretty gray and cloudy, which just makes things not look quite as appealing in the videos. But it was still a really great day of bike riding yesterday. I believe that street we just crossed under there was Oxford Street, and the second bridge that we passed was a railroad bridge for the CP rail line, Canadian Pacific. And so this pathway pretty well leads right to Western University, or the University of Western Ontario as it's formerly called. Hello. So I imagine this is a route that students take who go to that university, I guess for traveling to campus, as well as for the ones that live in the housing that's adjacent to the university, for using this for getting to run various different errands and go to events and things that are in downtown London. It seems to be fairly well used today. And of course, as we're riding along, you can enjoy the beautiful fall colors, which still lots of vibrancy left in them. I would say we're probably past the peak of the fall colors, but still quite a scenic time to ride through here. And this is called Gibbons Park that we're riding through. You can see some big weeping willow trees that we just passed there on the left. They had a lot of big tumorous growth things growing on them. I don't know what those are called. You see those from time to time on willow trees. Back there on the right, we passed the Kiwanis Music Park, which I guess are playground equipment for kids that make musical sounds like xylophones and percussive instruments. I've appreciated those kind of parks in other cities that I've visited. So yeah, it's nice that this city has these long, continuous trail system that you can just get on and just ride. You know, starting from that fork in the river where we started this video, you can pretty much go in 3 different directions, and each one, you got at least a minimum of 8 kilometers you can go in either direction. And I think this branch might be the longest, although the south branch, it actually connects up with a large park which goes further. So in terms of distance, I'm not sure which one is, you know, the longest. This morning I went and I rode this trail in the other direction as well as the south branch, just to go and see them. So I knew what to expect before turning the camera on. You never know what might crop up, like construction or, you know, bridges being missing or whatnot. But no, this trail is, everything was open and in quite good condition. The pavement is nice and smooth, and it really is a nice piece of infrastructure that they have here in London, and something that I would recommend coming and doing, even if you're not, you know, from London. It's something to do if you come and visit. Noticing on this part of the trail, there's bunches of bananas that are painted on the asphalt. Not sure what that's about. I saw there was a sign seemed to be related to it. It said something about potassium. I guess it's just some kind of art installation. Banana Kingdom. Welcome to the Banana Kingdom. That's what it says in the other direction. So up ahead there's one little section where the trail is missing. It's a portion where there's, I guess, privately owned land along the river, so they couldn't put the trail through, but the path is, there's basically, the trail is signed to go along this quiet residential street, which is not too bad for riding. So we will make our way over here to the left. And can actually see little blue signs in the front lawn of that house there, telling us the kilometer marker of the trail. I didn't see any signs though telling me that I needed to turn left, but I guess maybe that's somewhat intuitive just given the direction that the trail is heading. It's important that trails have good signage. All right, so we're just about at Western University, and because it's a particularly scenic campus, I've decided that I'm gonna actually do a little bit of a loop of the campus, and then we will, like I said, rejoin the trail again. So I'm going to be going over this bridge that's straight ahead, but I'm actually going to take the trail under the bridge first to be able to cross that surprisingly busy road. So we'll come down here and go back up the other side. And I think there's portions of the Western University that are over here on this side. I can see some purple signs for that parking lot. Purple is Western's color. But yeah, like you saw, that wasn't too far to get from downtown to University Central. Just get onto the road here, and lots of people walking around with backpacks on. That's a common sighting in any university campus. And straight ahead there you can see a big old clock tower. Western University was first established in 1878, and it's kind of one of the big industries of this city. Probably one of the, major employers, I would imagine. We got a nice little multi-use or bi-directional bike lane here, coming up the hill. As the one of the London Transit buses passes us on the right. And I think a lot of the buildings that are over here towards this side of the campus are housing buildings. I think so, at least. And Western's sort of known for its aesthetics of its buildings. The older ones are sort of made of stone, or the exteriors are stone. And I think the newer ones have false stone appearance to them, like this one over here on the right. Actually, that's the Faculty of Science. So I'm mistaken about these all being residence buildings, but I was reading that About a third of all the buildings on campus are for student residences. We'll just wrap around here to the left, passing the physics and astronomy over on the left, the chemistry building over on the right. Western University has a undergrad student population of about 34,000. Got a stop sign here. Yeah, you can see more of the old looking stone buildings. We'll make a left turn up ahead here at this next stop sign. That will take us onto a road which is not open to regular vehicles. Sort of a shortcut to get us back to where we came into the campus, but another opportunity to see a little bit more of it. Lots of students outside enjoying this beautiful, sunny, unseasonably warm November day. I've really been lucky with my weather this week here in London. There was a little bit of rain last night, but it didn't really come until after dark anyways, which by that point I'd already ridden my bike far enough and I was ready to relax for the evening. My total biking distance yesterday was about 58 kilometers, which a lot of that was just on the downtown streets, just sort of exploring them and going up and down them, but also the western branch of the trail that I was talking about earlier. We got a stop sign here at a roundabout. We'll make our way around this roundabout, almost all the way around the circle. But then we'll be turning right and heading back down towards the downtown. There always just seems to be a constant flow of pedestrians in university campuses. Another stop sign. And we continue our way down the hill. Just when we got some speed, I've got to stop again on another stop sign. So like I said, from here we're going to be rejoining that trail that we were on, and we're going to be riding it to the end, where it ends at the far east end of London. It sort of peters out into a trail that kind of dead ends in a way. Although of course the Thames River, or the North Thames River, continues further than the trail goes. It's a big flock of pedestrians walking across that intersection there. And then we'll make a right turn here, and we'll go back across the bridge again. And then I'll actually make a right turn to get under that underpass again of that bridge, so I don't have to worry about crossing the road. I'll come this way, and I've already been here before, but shortly we'll be seeing new scenery again. So we got another 7 kilometers or so to ride till we get to the end, so sit tight as you enjoy this longer than usual video. I tend to usually make videos that are shorter than this. Sort of between 10 and 20 minutes is usually sort of what I'm targeting a lot of the time, for at least for bike riding videos. Thank you. But I feel that given the fact that I'm only here for 2 days and kind of want to share the experience of coming here to London, and there is just these 3 branches of trail that are here. I mean, there are other trails and things too, and bike lanes on lots of streets, but I just felt like I wanted the mission of filming, you know, the entirety of the 3 branches. So hopefully my audience, you the viewer, are enjoying these out-of-town videos from me. I'm certainly enjoying riding these different trails. It's sort of nice just sort of recognizing the similarities and differences between different cities, and it's been a really good trip. So this road here that we're gonna ride under is Richmond Street, which is sort of the main north-south street through the downtown of London. I filmed a video yesterday in addition to that one that I described of the west branch of the TVP. I also filmed another one which was just showing what it's like to ride around in the downtown of London. And that video started on Richmond Street, and it sort of went south and through the core where all the old buildings were, with all the, you know, shops and restaurants and things, and just sort of gave a full experience of what it's like being here and being there in downtown London. We're now heading, well, we've now really, you know, pretty much left the downtown core, and the further I ride in this video, the further away from it we'll be getting. Up ahead there you can see a bridge that we're actually going to be riding across that will take us over to the, once again, over to the north side of the north branch of the Thames River. So here we go, left and over, and it looks like the reason they did that is because there's some private land that would have been ahead of us if we had stayed on this side, so they weren't able to put a trail on this side, but I guess the land on the other side was feasible, so they built this bridge, and you can see on either side the river. Here's a clip that I filmed earlier when I was coming across this bridge. Seems like a fairly calm section of the river, and the river seems you know, relatively deep. I'm sure it's a fun place to go in a kayak. There are some sections of both branches that I've noticed that have, you know, some rapids, nothing, you know, no, you know, crazy adventurous whitewater rapids or anything like that. Just, you know, just your average shallow, rocky part of a river. I would love to get out here sometime and explore these rivers by kayak. There are a couple of dams along the way, of course, which you'd have to be aware of and, you know about and know where to portage around them, but be fun. I mean, if it was possible, it would be really cool trip to take to, you know, take the Thames River all the way from here in London all the way out to Lake St. Clair, which is where it empties out. Lake St. Clair is the lake which is in between Lakes Huron and Lake Erie, over in the very far west side of southern Ontario, north of, basically in between Windsor and Sarnia. Like I said, I'm sure there are dams and there are probably shallow sections, but I think that would be a fun trip to try sometime because it goes through a lot of communities along the way. Of course, finding accommodations along the way might be a challenge too, because I don't know how many campgrounds there are. But I'm sure it's been done before. Alright, so here we are, just about to cross over to the other side of the river once again on another bridge. And you can see some of those rapids that I was describing. And here's a clip that I filmed earlier showing this portion of the river. So up ahead we're going to make a left turn and continue our way along the TVP. So like I mentioned, the three sections are the west branch, the north branch, and the south branch. But both the south branch and the north branch, they initially go in those directions that they've been described as, but they both curve and head over in the east direction from the fork. So they kind of run parallel eventually. And so where we're riding right now, we're pretty much heading in the east direction now, even though we started going north. You know, I think it was kind of a gradual turn. There wasn't any sharp curve, but we're now heading pretty well due east. And the southern branch does pretty much the same thing. And what that means is that if you want to do a loop of both of those two branches together, you can. I mean, they're not that close together, so you've got to do a fair bit of riding in between them, maybe 5 or 6 kilometers, but there are bike lanes that don't completely connect, you know, from one to the other, but, you know, I'd say about 95% of that 5 kilometers or 6 kilometers can be on bike lanes, and that's actually what I did earlier this morning, like I was mentioning when I rode this in the other direction. I did it as an actual loop. So again, that's something to consider if you're coming here to London. In fact, if you want to do all 3 of the trails, what I'd recommend, here I am giving transportation tourism advice for a city that I've only been in for 2 days, but what I'd recommend is that you start at the far western end of the west branch and then ride towards the downtown, and then pick either the north or the south branch and do the loop, and then get back to the fork and then take the west branch back, and that'll let you see everything. This next street that we're going to pass is called Adelaide Street. It's a north-south major street. In my downtown London video, I was mentioning how similar the names of the streets were here in London with in Toronto. You may have noticed that we went under a bridge for Richmond Street, now we're going under a bridge for Adelaide Street. Richmond and Adelaide are two streets in downtown Toronto which also run parallel. You can see over here on the right there's a map. There's quite a few of those along the trail, which is a nice feature to have, even though I think most people probably use electronic maps for their navigation these days, but Google Maps, I've been noticing on this trip, isn't completely up to date with all the trails, or maybe the trails are okay, but you'll be looking at something and you'll go, okay, I gotta go this way because of this, and then you get there and you realize that, oh, well, I actually could have done this, but it just wasn't shown on the map. I noticed that mostly for bike lanes downtown, and maybe it's because London just added a whole bunch in the last 2 years, but if you really want good maps to navigate by or plan a trip, the City of London website has a bike map that you can download there, and they update it periodically. So there's one that was put out earlier in 2021 that I've been using, which is so far hasn't let me down. Alright, I gotta stop here because unfortunately my chain has fallen off my bike, but I'll just put that back on and we'll keep on going. Alright, and here we're back in business. Unfortunately, that's a problem that's plagued me on this trip. This is not a bike that I usually ride. It's a bike that I acquired specifically for this trip, and I thought I had solved the problem. Basically, this is a 6-speed bike that only has a single chain ring on the crankset. Which means there's no front derailleur there to guide the chain and keep it from falling off. And unfortunately, as I said that, it just fell off again. So let me just put that back on again. All right, and we're back in business again. So like I was saying, I thought I had solved the problem. I thought that basically what happens is when you're changing gears, you know, if it doesn't shift properly, then the chain sort of vibrates, and there's sort of a, I don't know, like a shock wave kind of that just sort of makes it jump off of that largest sprocket at the front. So really, I guess you kind of want to have like a chain guide that keeps it on there at the front, ideally. The bike didn't come with one. Maybe it did originally. I'm not the original owner of this bike. But what I did to try and fix it was remove some of the links from the chain to make the chain shorter, which I thought would mean that the rear derailleur would pull on it a little bit harder, which would make it less likely. But unfortunately, it's not been a complete solution. As you saw there, it just came off sort of twice in about the course of about a minute, but prior to that, it had only fallen off once so far today in the 25 kilometers or so that I did before turning on the camera, so it's definitely improved. But other than that, I've been pretty happy with this bike. I forgot to mention it while I was riding through the Western University campus, but the make of this bike is called a Campus. I don't know any history on that company. They don't seem to exist anymore. But I just thought it was fitting that I was riding a campus bike through a university campus. The purpose that I'm sure it was intended for, or at least marketed for. All right. Continuing in the left direction. Another bridge. I think these are bridges for tributaries of the river. Just little small creeks that flow into the Thames. Thames is spelled T-H-A-M-E-S. And it's a name that's borrowed from the City of London, England's river. And in fact, both London and Thames were both chosen for this area. Specifically, to be like London. And it was before this land was even had any development on it whatsoever. It was sort of hand-picked to be the future capital city for what is now Ontario. Sorry, I just paused there because I felt like we may have taken a wrong turn here, but it seemed like that trail towards the left was kind of gravel and worn down. I don't recognize this though from when I came in the other direction, and I am relying on Google Maps here to give me directions. I think I definitely did take a wrong turn, but that's okay. We'll follow the direction that Google is recommending here, which I guess has me going along this residential street, which is not the end of the world. It gives you a chance to see some of suburban London, which is really indistinguishable from the suburban areas of most towns and cities in Ontario. Aside from the writing on these recycle bins, if I were to just post this clip, a short clip of this without any other context, I think a lot of people would be pretty hard pressed to identify what city or town I'm currently riding in. So right up here, we're going to make a left turn and get back onto the trail. Not sure why Google recommended that. That's okay. It was a chance for me to see a little bit more of London too, because had I gone the right way, it would be a repeat of what I saw earlier this morning. Yeah, so that's what we missed, and yeah, no real reason why we should have missed it, but that's okay. We'll just go with it. Not too much further to go, only another 2.3 kilometers, and we've got one more crossing of the river to do. And it's actually not on a dedicated trail bridge, just part of the, one of the road bridges that has an area where people can walk or bike across. The temperature currently is about 12 degrees Celsius, I would estimate. Maybe not quite that warm. I think the forecast said it was going to be a high of 11 today. But in the sunshine, I would say it feels warmer than that. Just a light breeze. Quite nice for a November afternoon. And after I get finished recording this video, I'm gonna head over and have a late lunch. The restaurant that I'm planning on going to, I usually go to sort of, one-off sort of local restaurants, but this time I'm doing something different than that. I'm gonna go to Arby's, which is a fast food chain, which really has been disappearing in the parts of within my bubble at least. There aren't any Arby's locations in Toronto or any of the immediate suburbs. The closest ones to downtown Toronto are in Oshawa and in Burlington, which are both, you know, about an hour drive or hour transit from downtown Toronto. So London has 3 locations of Arby's. So I thought, oh, okay, well, that's what I'm gonna have for lunch here. So that's my plan. So yeah, really nice to have a practically continuous trail like this that you can just get on and ride. It's great that the city has invested in their citizens by giving them infrastructure like this for them to stay active and healthy, and it also does act as transportation. You know, people are able to use this to get from A to B as long as A and B are relatively close to one of the 3 branches of the river. So here we're going underneath of Highbury Street, and from here it looks like the trail continues over that way, but that's what I was talking about, where that's not shown on Google Maps. So it may continue there, but it definitely continues if we cross this bridge here. I'll make a right turn and ride on this bike lane. And here's a clip that I filmed when I was crossing this bridge earlier, showing you what it looks further upstream along here. A few kilometers further upstream from here, further beyond where I'm going to be riding in this video, is a fairly large dam across the north branch of the Thames. And above that dam is a lake that was formed, which is called Fanshawe Lake. And speaking of Fanshawe, if we were to turn right on Highbury and go in the other direction, that would take us down towards Fanshawe College, which is the other post-secondary institution here in London, at least the other large one. There may be other very small post-secondary institutions, but Fanshawe College is a community college. And I rode past that earlier when I was doing the loop. And so here, the trail goes behind a bunch of backyards of some fairly new looking homes. And it seems like this is just going to keep going on forever, but believe me, it doesn't. It sort of just comes to an abrupt end, not too far from here. So this would be the sort of far north east corner of London. And this sign here indicates that the asphalt turns to gravel, but having ridden this before, it's not really gravel. It seems to be, I mean, it looks like gravel, but it seems like they have some tar in there. It's certainly not loose gravel. Maybe it is gravel. Well, no, this is definitely paved. Thank you. So, City of London has a total population of about 400,000 people. I think it's the 11th largest metropolitan area in the country of Canada, so not a small city, but certainly there's lots of other larger ones. And pretty well the entire metropolitan is part of the City of London. They've amalgamated and annexed a lot of the surrounding communities. So straight ahead there's a sort of a drainage ditch which takes water probably during flooding conditions down towards the right to flow into the river, but that's where the trail terminates as far as going further in the east direction, but the trail does technically continue in this way a little bit further. Riding this trail does sort of remind me of when I was a kid and I would go and explore trails, and you sort of always just wanted to keep on going and see, oh, I wonder where it's going to go. Like, will it keep on going? Like, there's a little bit of a mystery in there as to what the trail is like. Of course, that was before, you know, information about trails and things was so readily available. We would have had the early digital maps back then, like MapQuest, and probably the first iteration of Google Maps, but certainly nowhere that you could turn on a layer to show the trails and pathways and things. But anyways, here is the end of the trail. It doesn't continue any further, and straight ahead is Cedar Hollow Public School. But anyway, I hope you enjoyed joining me on this narrated tour of the north branch of the Thames Valley Parkway. If you watched all the way to the end of this video, I'd love to hear your thoughts in the comment section below. And thanks for watching.